SeniorLivingGuide.com podcast discusses topics which are relevant to the everyday lives of seniors and their caregivers. We are joined by experts who share their knowledge on a variety of issues. SeniorLivingGuide.com podcast offers solutions and resources to create the best quality of life as we age. And now, let's welcome your host, Darlene Mahoney.
SeniorLivingGuide.com is the most comprehensive online resource for seniors and their caregivers. We provide details on senior living communities to include retirement, assisted living, independent living, skilled nursing, memory care, as well as senior resources, home and healthcare solutions, all in one easy-to-navigate website, allowing you to decide which best fits your needs and connect you directly in one easy step. Visit us online at SeniorLivingGuide.com and start your search today. And I would like to express our gratitude to our podcast sponsors, Transmed Care Long Distance Medical Transportation and GoGo Grandparent. When a loved one with a disability or medical condition needs to relocate, Transmed Care is here to help with safe and secure nationwide medical transport services, while GoGo Grandparent provides reliable local rides, no smartphones required, with all drivers and vehicles screened to meet your mobility needs. Check us out at SeniorLivingGuide.com podcast. We are making sure that our seniors are getting exactly where they need to go. Today, we are joined by Zayne Smith from AARP. She is joining us on the podcast. She's the Senior Director of Advocacy at AARP Florida. She's leading efforts on consumer protections, housing, and financial security. She has represented AARP Florida in various coalitions and task force and was recognized as a 2023 Above and Beyond Award recipient for her influence in Florida public policy. And today we are going to take a deep dive into the world of AARP advocacy and learn about pressing issues in Florida and other places as well. And I'm super thrilled to have you join this episode. So, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and how you became involved with AARP?
Yeah, sure. And thank you for having me. I've been with AARP now for 12 years, and I came from a background of legal advocacy in the Deep South, focused on different issues that impacted low income and underserved and under the radar communities, and had an opportunity coming from Alabama to go to Florida and work with AARP on a bunch of aging issues. And it just appealed to me. I've been an advocate at heart. I went to law school, knew I didn't want to litigate, but wanted to leverage that education and that passion to do good for the world, and hopefully leave an imprint that helps people that are either voiceless or struggle to really have a seat at the table when it comes to policies that impact them personally or their loved ones. So AARP provided that opportunity, and for 12 years now, I've really enjoyed focusing not just here in Florida, but across the country on issues that impact the 50 plus community. There's so many different areas of this country where if you're older or as we age, things go under the radar. You become unseen. You face different challenges that maybe younger generations don't think about. So AARP has provided that opportunity to really raise a voice on a lot of significant issues. And I hope as I age, the world's a little bit better.
Yeah, I love the work that AARP does. And you're absolutely right. Seniors are so underserved, and they are sometimes just really unseen and forgotten. And I think that's so sad. But I do think that once you develop a love for seniors, you do have that love for seniors, and you really do want to advocate for them in a very, very passionate way. So I appreciate that because I too have that. I really developed such a love for seniors and the need to really reach out and be a resource to them probably over the last 10 years or so. And so I think that it's something that has really just become such a big part of me. So I love being a part of it. And I'm so glad you are as well. And AARP for sure. So as AARP is committed to champion policies, what are some of the advocacy work that AARP does?
Well, across the country, there's some things that just resonate with anyone, no matter where you live. And I think the top priority is long-term financial security. And one of the things that AARP is really looking to protect and ensure is Social Security. That's the safety net that was promised to us almost 90 years ago. August 14th will be its 90th year. That was there for people as they age to have a little bit of income. You work hard, you paid into it, and people deserve to get it back as they age and no longer have a steady income. We're fighting against food insecurity across the country. A lot of our older residents are going hungry or are lacking true accessibility to nutritional food. So that's a big priority of AARP. Advocating for healthcare. We all know the healthcare industry is a very complicated network of insurers and providers and prescriptions. It's hard to navigate. And if you don't have someone in your corner, you don't have someone fighting to keep those costs reasonable, or you don't have, a group of people that are there to lend aid, even if it's just a ride to the doctor's office or a ride to go pick up your prescriptions at the pharmacy, life can be tough. And so AARP, probably one of the biggest priorities outside of long-term financial security, is access to affordable and adequate health care.
Yeah. The medical healthcare is so complicated. I think people think, oh, once I get on Medicare, I'm good to go. They don't realize Medicare is just the tip of the iceberg. So
It is.
there's all the different parts. And what are those different parts? And those different parts cost money.
They all cost money, but they also take a level of acuity that if you're
Mhm.
not familiar with all the legalese or the medical speak or the insurance speak, you can find yourself thinking you have a policy that's going to cover a significant health issue when in fact you don't, or
Mhm.
you're going to be left out in the cold when it comes to medical bills rolling in. And we all know, if you've ever had a recent trip to a hospital, you probably get five, six, seven different bills from one trip. And it can be complicated and it can be scary too, because you see the price tags associated with it. And even though once you turn 65, you get your Medicare, it doesn't cover everything.
Yeah.
And you're left with some significant bills if you haven't planned accordingly
Mhm.
for some of the health concerns you may have arise as you age.
Yeah, 100%. My dad moved about an hour and a half from where he was originally located. He had dementia, moved over here. So I had power of attorney. I took over everything. And I had his health insurance card for his part something. I can't remember now. But I took him to his doctor's appointments, et cetera. And the bills started coming in and they weren't getting paid. And I'm like, okay, so what's going on here? Because this should have been paid. They were being paid previously. Come to find out, what he had purchased, which I did not realize, was based on location. So he had his doctor bills based on, I don't know, a certain radius. Did not know this. So, yeah, we were in a little bit of trouble. So I had to change everything over. But in that interim, his bills they had to be paid out of pocket. So, and clearly he didn't tell me that. He didn't know. He didn't have the cognitive ability to tell me.
Right. And that happens a lot. And sadly it happens a lot more than you think. And what you described, you planned. You got all the proper, ducks in a row to be able to help make the decisions, assist him in getting his health care that he needed, both from a medical and a legal perspective. And there's still pitfalls that people fall
Yeah.
into.
And who knew that plan even existed? I had no idea. So I didn't know it was a thing. So another thing that I think is something that you guys do consider and do talk about is affordable housing. Affordable housing is becoming more and more of an issue.
It's probably top of mind for most people. And I think Florida is not unique in that across the country, we're in a housing crisis,
Yeah.
and not just affordable, but accessible.
Right.
I think there's some misnomers out there when people talk about affordable housing, that it automatically means it's accessible either financially or in a physical way for people with mobility issues or with issues as you age. Going up 5 flights of stairs is not accessible, even though it may be affordable. We're facing a housing crisis, and it doesn't just relate to the physical dwellings that are available. With housing comes the cost of insurance, and we know across the country, natural disasters are on the uptick, and it's no longer just coastal communities, right? We're seeing middle of America facing floods of epic proportions. We just had, unfortunately, Helene, which was a hurricane that impacted Florida, but moved through, the deep South,
Yeah.
wreaking havoc. And so, housing affordability and all the things associated with that, insurance, property taxes, are a real concern for Americans and a lot of older Americans.
Yeah, absolutely. And then heating and air conditioning. I know that here in the great state of Florida, we're going into the summer months. And those AC bills are going to skyrocket because it gets blistering hot. And
Yes, it does.
we have to kind of keep cool here. So making sure that you're able to afford that, because seniors sometimes, to save money, will turn off that AC. And that's when you can run into some real trouble.
Yeah, heating and cooling costs are certainly a concern. And like you mentioned here in Florida, to have to choose between running your AC at 80 degrees, because let's be real, we're not talking about people turning it down to 65 and having a nice cold apartment, home, condo, wherever you live. We're talking people 78, 80 degrees in their home. It becomes a health issue for a lot of seniors. I don't know that a lot of people are aware that as we age, heat and cool really do impact significantly our overall health and well-being. We saw in a very extreme case after Hurricane Irma here in Florida, when the power went out at a nursing home, residents passed away, and it was because of the heat.
Yeah.
And with the rising cost of monthly electric bills, people are forced to choose between groceries, gas, prescriptions, and AC here in Florida.
Yeah, exactly. So there's a lot of different things that are impacting seniors every day that AARP really considers, thinks about, and becomes resources for. I love that. So what are you hearing from your members about what are their overall concerns about the cost of living?
I think it's being stuck in between a rock and a hard spot, right? So they're not seeing, if they're income restricted, which that's a certain
Mhm.
category where people are relying on Social Security or any type of retirement savings they were able to accrue over their working life. So you don't have increase in income, you just have a steady income, right?
Right.
And so as everything continues to rise, whether it be the cost of groceries, your utility bills, prescription drugs, you name it, whatever, everything keeps going up, but their income doesn't go up.
Exactly.
And so you have people that are really struggling day to day to afford where they're living. So I think the homelessness of the 60 plus is going up. We're seeing that across the country, especially here in Florida, where more and more older residents are having to leave their homes and start living in cars or start utilizing public assistance programs and homeless shelters. In talking with a bunch of the housing advocates here in Florida and in other states, there's a definitive uptick in homeless seniors in America,
Yeah.
and that's pretty sad to see happening.
Yeah, I think families become a little bit more fragmented. I know that as I grew up, all of our family was like in the same area. We had big family get-togethers. And since probably in the last 15, 20 years, everyone's kind of moved away. It's very fragmented, and it's not out of any particular reason. People just get jobs and they move, the kids, all the different things start happening. And so no one's really close anymore. We don't have big family get togethers. And I think that's becoming more and more common. And I think that kind of lends to kind of what you're talking about, where seniors find themselves maybe where their family is no longer close and can take care of them. And then I think that we're kind of living in a time where those same seniors that are living month to month on that Social Security, that they maybe lived, paycheck to paycheck their entire lives. They maybe never received any kind of government assistance. They never lived off of, any kind of housing assistance or anything like that, but they did work a good, steady job. They fed their families, they paid their bills, but they never had extra to save for that retirement. And they never had a job that had pensions, or pensions weren't offered, which, if you find a job with a pension, you need to like have a happy dance on a TikTok or something, because that just doesn't occur anymore. So I think you're just now finding where more and more are coming to that point in their lives where now then they can't live, they can't earn that extra money to fill in that gap, because they just don't have the ability to do that because they're older and they just can't find a job, or they can't work, or they're older, that your money is what your money is. You can't go find a better job and you can't fill in that gap. And then they really find themselves in a position where they really don't know what to do.
And I think you're peeling back another layer of that onion of considerations as we age. We are seeing across the country, especially here in Florida, an uptick in older individuals trying to return to the workplace because the affordability has become an issue. And they
Yeah.
are facing significant challenges now with age discrimination. They don't want to be hired over the younger worker that's applying, or they may have too much experience and would cost too much for an employer to hire versus a person that's young, maybe no experience, but they can hire in at an entry level salary. And so
Right.
we're seeing that kind of explode now across the country, as well as returning to the workplace as an older worker is tough.
Right, right. You almost think of when you think of the older worker that they voluntarily go back to work because they're bored and they just want to be a Walmart greeter. Well, it's expanded beyond the Walmart greeter, where they're going in and they're bussing tables or doing some really hardcore work where it's a physical thing, and that's hard on a senior. People don't, I'm not super old, but I'm telling you, the older I get, the more tired I get, the more I physically feel the age coming on. So I can't even imagine it 15, 20 years from now. It's just, anyway.
Right.
Moving
No,
on.
I'm with you
Moving
on
on from
that
that. So for AARP, so what are they doing to protect those consumer costs on a national level?
So we do a few different things. The main, I think, thing we advocate for, no matter what arena we're talking about when it comes to consumer costs, is transparency and accountability. There are decision makers in all 50 states and in Washington that get to kind of set the rules of how much a power company can increase their monthly power bill, or a water company, or any type, setting costs for things around insurance premiums or car insurance. And so ARP really advocates at across the country in all 50 states and in Washington to really create this sense of transparency around how the decisions are made and what's influencing those decisions and what is actually fair and necessary and justified, and then holding the decision makers accountable. And we hold them accountable by educating the public, educating our members. I think here in Florida, we can point to, we're in the midst of the country's largest electric utility rate increase request. And
Wow.
we have a power company that is looking to get excessive return on equity or profit. And so one of the things we're not only advocating for as an organization, but we're educating the public and telling them, hey, raise your voice. This is your opportunity for the Florida Public Service Commission to hear from you about how this unnecessary profit increase is going to personally impact you. Sharing those stories. And so really it's about transparency and accountability. And it's not just happening here in Florida. We're doing it across the country and in Washington.
Yeah, that's absolutely fabulous. Yeah, it's good to hear that people really do need to raise their own voices to be heard. Advocacy groups are incredible, and they're that push forward to get in front of those, decision makers, the people that cast the ballots, the people that make the rules. But the voices at the level of the consumer, the
Everyday
voters,
person.
the
Yep.
voters, those are the ones they really, really need to reach out. And I think sometimes we get lackadaisical thinking that other people are going to do the work for us. And you really have to be an advocate for yourself. You have to be an advocate for yourself when you go to the doctor. You have to be an advocate for yourself in anything that you do. You really do have to continue to advocate for yourself and the things that matter to you and your family the most. So,
Yeah, you nailed it on that. And I think the other piece of that is education is key, right?
mhm.
It's super easy as a human or as an individual in your own community and your own home to be what I call a keyboard warrior, where you can just get on a social media platform and try to blame the other side or blame
Mhm.
someone when you don't really know yourself what the issue
Mhm.
is and how it may actually impact you personally or your loved ones. And so we really strive at ARP to educate people on the issues. Is don't trust us and don't trust them. Go find out for yourself how this is going to impact you. And so I think that's the key in what we do in advocacy, no matter what the issue may be, is education. A better educated populace turns into better advocates for themselves and for their community and for their families. And then that then holds the accountability piece true to all these decision makers.
We at GoGo Grandparent are so excited to be joining this podcast. With just one call to GoGo, you or a loved one can request a reliable ride anywhere you want to go. No smartphone required. All drivers and vehicles are screened and monitored to meet your mobility needs and can accommodate impairment equipment, such as a walker or a wheelchair. Plus, GoGo membership offers concierge services on meals and grocery delivery, as well as home services, which can include maintenance on your home, cleaning, gardening services. To learn more or sign up for GoGo, call 1-855-970-6294 or visit gogograndparent.com/SeniorLivingGuide.
TransMedCare long-distance medical transportation is a business built on care. Another satisfied customer writes,
"My family and I were extremely pleased with the professionalism, warmth, friendliness, and competence of the TransMedCare team. They were on time, patient, obliging, and kept in touch regularly during the ride from New Jersey to Florida. And they were very kind to my husband. I highly recommend this company."
To learn more about TransMedCare, visit the website at trans-medcare.com.
I love that because, you hit the nail on the head. We've turned into a nation of keyboard warriors. And I think that has diminished the education side of it because you're getting your information from other keyboard warriors or from misinformation. I know my son's told me some things and I said, "Where did you hear that?" "I saw it on YouTube." Okay. Yeah. So that's not legitimate. I
Right.
don't know who provided you that information, but let's educate ourselves. So, I think that that's something that's definitely becoming more and more of a problem. So as far as AARP and the educational piece, that's something that can be a resource on the educational side, correct?
Absolutely. And, there's like AARP, there are a lot of fantastic organizations out there that are truly nonpartisan, that pull resources and research from both sides of the aisle, from the experts in the field, compile, lists of, books or writings or published material for people to go educate themselves. I think it's important when we do self-educate on an issue, no matter if it's about caregiving or utilities or prescription drugs, that you know who you're getting your information from. I know you kind of hit on that, like YouTube's probably not the best source, but going to fact find and verify who you're receiving the information from, knowing, is there a political bias involved in this written piece? I think that's important. And I just feel like people have gotten kind of lazy and have kind of sat back and just let people tell them what to think, as opposed to going, wait a minute, that doesn't necessarily make sense, or that's not what I thought I understood it to be. And instead of going and checking, people just throw their hands up, or like I say, get on the keyboard warrior path and start pointing fingers. But ARP as a nonprofit and as a nonpartisan organization, we're one of the few large scale that don't have a PAC, so we don't run a political action committee. We don't endorse political candidates. We don't put money into politics in any kind of race, whether it be federal, state, or local. We're a true nonpartisan. We have our members that from both sides of the political spectrum often gripe at us. And my theory is, if we're catching it from the right and left leaning members that we have, we're doing something right, because we're in the middle and we're making both sides angry with us.
You are
And
100% doing something right.
we are. So I take that as a badge of honor when I get my emails. I call them nasty grams sometimes, but when I've got some of our members that are really frustrated because we're not doing X or we are doing Y. But again, when you have a nonpartisan organization that really tries to put out information that is in the interest of the group that we represent, which is the 50 plus, those type of resources are valid. I know we have members of Congress and legislators across the country from both sides of the aisle that utilize our research by the experts and put it into developing legislation or making decisions. And so I think I pride myself on working at AARP in an organization like this that truly is a nonpartisan. And I wish more people took the time to really research where information's coming from, who they're involving themselves with, and would raise their hand to volunteer with groups that mean something not just to them, but to what they want the world to be or their community to be. Because there's a lot of good groups out there
Yeah.
and that are worthwhile of everyone's time.
Yeah, absolutely. So I did want to kind of loop back around because I know that we talked a little bit about utility rates as they're increasing, specifically, you mentioned the state of Florida, but honestly, nationwide. It's a problem. And, for seniors, they are on that limited budget. So they're making X amount of money, but then everything else is increasing. So cost of housing is increasing, cost of food is increasing, cost of utilities. So they're getting less and less money for disposable income, not that they had a lot anyway. So they're going to have to give up something. So what are they going to give up? Are they going to give up something nutritious to eat? Are they going to give up, going out as far as like they're not going to go anywhere? They're going to give up gas money? Are they going to just stay at home and watch television and not have any kind of social interaction, which is something that they need as well? So they're just going to have to give up something to make up for the same thing that they already have. So they're not getting anything extra. So what are some things that they can do at home to kind of look at their kind of monitor and kind of see and save money on that utility side and kind of see what's going on there to see if any of the utilities are affecting them?
Yeah, no, I think that's a great question, and there's a few things people can do. Monitoring your monthly bill is a key part of ensuring that your usage, like if you see a spike, so if 1 month you're seeing, $100, like give or take, right, $100 for your bill, the next month all of a sudden it's 200. I think it's time to go look at your bill because maybe something's not correct. If it's a water bill that goes up like that, maybe you have a leak,
Yeah.
and you can call your water department out. Or if it's an electric issue, you can take a look at the usage and try to identify where you're getting power drained that you're not using, and then talk to your utility company. I know across the country, utility companies have all sorts of program where if it's a electric issue and you have concerns, they'll come out and try to address it with you. They'll figure out where can you save, what kind of energy conservation products could you use, how can you uh, you know, insulate your home
Hmm.
to not have to run your air conditioning so much. With water leaks, you can call your water company. They'll come out and see if they can detect an underground water leaks to help you learn how you can, either stop the water leak if it's your responsibility, if it's the city or county's responsibility to fix the water leak. But knowing and monitoring what your bill and your usage looks like is a great step. There's also assistance programs that are on the books, states and federal programs exist to help curb the costs of utilities. A lot of low income seniors qualify for a program that's called LIHEAP that allows for you to have the cost of your monthly power bill cut in half in many situations. So calling your utility company is one place where they'll have that kind of information, what programs exist, what you might qualify for. It's just knowing and being aware of your usage and your power bills or your water bills or your gas bills, and then being proactive in finding out how you can cut the cost, or is there an issue going on. That'll help save money. I know that's not a silver bullet, and like you said, people are having to choose between going out for dinner or maybe rationing their prescription drugs or maybe not getting the groceries that they need. So there are some hard choices, but if you're more informed, there's ways you can try to help stop some of the increasing cost as well.
Yeah. And you may not know the answer to this, and maybe you do, and maybe I'm completely insane for asking it. But are there any utility specific senior programs? Do utility companies offer specific rates for seniors?
I think that's a great question. Federally, there's nothing that's like age restricted. Typically, they're based on income. And so
Right.
a lot of seniors do fall into those kind of
Okay.
programs because there's a limited income or a static income. Each state and each utility company, frankly, can decide what they want to do as it relates to older residents. And so
Hmm.
I think you're asking a great question. I don't know the answer off the top of my head. I know in Florida, there is no age specific,
Okay.
rate. So it's not like, if you're a 65 plus resident, you have a lower kilowatt per hour rate
Hmm.
than someone who's like me, who's 44, and in the
Hmm.
same power company. That doesn't exist in Florida, but it
Okay.
could in other states, or it could with other power companies.
Okay. Yeah. Just food for thought. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
No, I think it's a good food for thought. Sounds like a
Yeah.
good advocacy campaign.
Yeah. So if you were to advocate for yourself, what are some advocacy things that you could do to kind of push that needle forward?
So I think there's a few things. One, get engaged, right? Like no matter what age you are, where you live, we have the luxury of a more virtual world. So whether it be in person or in virtual groups, get engaged in consumer groups, folks that have their kind of their thumb on the pulse of what's happening around the country or in your community. So volunteer for consumer groups, or sign up for newsletters so you can educate yourself around different issues, around what it means to you. um, get to know your elected officials. And again, you can do that from the comfort of your recliner, right? Learn what your elected officials, their views and their thoughts, because a lot of what we're seeing around the country when it comes to cost setting in communities, think utilities, insurance products, those decisions are made in the capital cities
Yeah.
across the country. So those are your elected officials. So engage with your elected officials, reach out, ask for a meeting, tell them how a increase in X, Y, or Z is impacting you, your family, your well-being. Um, and just stay engaged with your community, because if you're having feelings or you're unsure about things, I would guarantee a lot of your community members feel the same way. And so there's always power and strength in numbers as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So what are some other resources that might be helpful to our audience today that
Well, I would
AARP
encourage.
offers?
Yeah, no, AARP, we're not a single issue organization, and we have a wealth of information.
Yeah.
And I would encourage the listeners to go to www.aarp.org for the nationwide view of all things AARP. If you want to dig down to state specific, so if you're here in Florida, if you're in Texas, or if you're in California or West Virginia, you can filter by state. And so you can get resources from the www.aarp.org. You can put /FL for Florida or /TX for Texas. So
Okay.
use your state abbreviation, and that'll take you to everything state specific.
Okay, very good. And I know that in the past, some of the things that we've talked about regarding AARP that I love, because this is something that it's not regarding this podcast, but fraud and scam prevention, that is huge for specifically for everyone, to be quite frank with you, but our seniors in general, they become a higher target. So learning about that, because that is ever changing. Those fraudsters and scammers are always coming up with something new and creative.
They are slick.
they are scarily slick, and with AI getting more and more, some of the stuff that's coming out on AI every single day that I see makes my mind go poof. It just blows.
Yeah.
It just
Yeah,
blows.
I think they know before we know.
It is so scary. So really keeping up to date on that. And if you're not a senior and you're a caregiver listening to this podcast, honestly, go in there and look at it, because you need to have that conversation with your senior, because they are the target. And one of the things that I know that we've talked about is don't make them feel bad if they become a target of that scam, because a lot of times they won't share that with you afterwards. And then it's really hard to kind of fix and go backwards.
Absolutely.
And then you guys have all kinds of webinars and virtual classes, all kinds of fun interactives versus just going and reading. So I think that that's really cool as well.
Yep, stay engaged. That's the way to do it these days.
Yeah, absolutely. I love the resources that you provide. Well, I really appreciate you joining me on this podcast. Is there anything else that you wanted to share that we didn't talk about before we sign off?
The only thing I tell people is educate, engage, and try to live well. We're all in this together, and AARP's here to be a helpful resource for anyone as they age. And so thank you for having me today. This has been a fantastic experience.
I have so enjoyed speaking with you today, Zayne. It has been so much fun, and I did learn so much. Hopefully our listeners did too. And definitely, if you're listening to this podcast, go check out aarp.org, and I will include that link in the description and all the apps for this podcast, so you can go visit it, check out the resources that they provide. And if you enjoy this podcast, we are available with over 100 podcasts anywhere you listen to podcasts, such as Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Good Pods, and many more. Thanks for listening.